You're listening to a Roddenberry podcast.
All right, we made it. You made it. Everybody made it. End of the week for Engage, the show where we tackle your comments and questions sent into Mission Log. I'm John Champion.
And I'm Norman Lau. And just like John said, we are here at the end of the week, but we are still engaging with all of you. And we have yet another fascinating email that came to us.
Yeah, this one is from Alex, and let's see. Is this another one about Phage?
No, this is actually a little bit more of a wibbly wobbly, timey wimey kind of email.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
Hit us then.
All right. So this is from Alex, and this is in reference to Time and Again, the episode right before Phage. So hi, John and Norman. I thought I would give you a proper message about Voyager now that you're covering it. I don't wish to bias you one way or another, so I will only join in the discussion about the bits you have seen. First off, I love time travel stories, and I am literally writing a sci-fi series about a time war that is happening in the multiverse when the entire point of a multiverse is that changing time should not actually be possible, and at every change to time creates a divergent universe. Thinking about this stuff is my idea of fun. Of all the time travel in Trek that I have seen, Time and Again is by far the most dull, which is the most criminal thing for a time travel story to be. That's not to say that it is a bad episode. I quite like it. It's just a very pedestrian stroll through some sets, briefly discussing the Prime Directive and nuclear power. If you want an explanation of the ending, I'd say that Voyager found itself pulled into an ontological paradox in negating the start and end of that paradox. Janeway stopped it from ever happening, like releasing an elastic band that had been caught on something so it pings back to shape. Norman asked what version of time travel I look at this episode under. The answer is its own version. No series is consistent about how it uses time travel, and perhaps Norman should keep a conspiracy board with bits of string to chart all the different kinds of time travel used in Voyager. Next, I want to make something clear. Whatever my views of the series as a whole, I love the characters of Voyager. Though Tom and Neelix at this point in the series are both sleazy, I understand why people don't like Neelix, but I think you may be surprised by him. Voyager is not my sacred cow. There are episodes I love, episodes that help me diagnose things about myself, but I can listen to people rage about it or rave about it and find enjoyment and points on both sides. Thank you, Alex.
Yeah, and by the way, Alex, there's another email about Neelix and Voyager characters, et cetera, that I pulled that we'll hit another time too, because I think this is a great ongoing thing here. And I don't disagree with you here. I mean, I think maybe part of the problem with Star Trek, the longer it goes on, is that, every series that comes along after another one has all the baggage of what happened before it to kind of deal with and unpack. And when there are only so many stories you can tell and so many variations, it's sci-fi. You're going to fall back on time travel at some point. I mean, look, they did it at least once in TOS when it was, a very difficult, challenging thing they didn't know if they were going to get back from, and then in the Voyage Home, another very difficult thing, but then all of a sudden you can just sort of time travel whenever you want.
Yeah, Tomorrow's Yesterday, I believe, was the first time.
That was the episode I was looking for. And furthermore, Star Trek also created its own problem by having the mirror universe, because by definition, that mirror universe, the alternate to the one that we're in now, and again, possibly many, many, many umpteen millions of alternate universes, though they keep finding the same one, has some relation to time, in that those universes split off at a certain point because something that happened in the past. So Star Trek already is burdened by all of the storytelling, and then also has to tell new and fresh stories with the tools that they've been given. And yeah, look, we don't want to get too far ahead in Voyager, but Voyager is notorious for that reset button. And here is that early version of the reset button where we did something in the past, therefore it negates what happened in the present, and we don't know about it in the future because it never happened. It's frustrating. And that episode, I feel like, was one that needed, time and again, needed to have another pass by the writers. I mean, I don't know. Other than to say that I feel you, Alex. It's not great, but there were very good moments that came out of that episode. What about you,
Sure.
Norm? Yeah.
Well, I think it didn't help that it was preceded by Parallax and then kind of succeeded later by what was the other time travel episode? The Cloud or something like that?
That soon?
Was it?
We didn't do any time travel in
Eye of the Needle. Sorry,
Eye of the
Eye
Needle.
of the
There we
Needle.
go. There
Right,
we go.
Eye
Yeah,
of the
yeah.
Needle.
Yeah.
So you had like all of these time travel episodes where either the cause preceded the effect or the effect preceded the cause.
Yeah.
Sure. Why not? Right. Not all of it's going to land and not all of it is going to be perfect. Does it serve the story well?
Right.
That's the most important thing. Does it serve the story well to a point where you can believe the rules that are being set in the microcosm of the episode and not necessarily in the general macrocosm of the entire tapestry that is Star Trek? You start doing that, and I am going to make that chart with all the strings and push pins and things like that, right?
And see, here's it, and I don't watch Star Trek that way, or pretty much anything. I don't watch that way. Other big franchises, I mean, certainly the Bond franchise, you can make arguments about what's connected and what's not, and what is just a hard reboot, and I'm fine with that. You know, it's one movie every few years. Star Trek again has this very unique problem where there is a lot of internal consistency, so that then when those things aren't consistent, it's very jarring to some section of the viewers that are watching it. But I usually don't have that in my head. I just want to know what's happening right now. How are they telling the story right now? And like you said, how does it serve the story? Or in this case, how does it serve the characters? And that's really frustrating here as well, because even if the characters have great moments, they aren't affected by those moments, presumably, at the end of the process. Mm-hmm. You know, all we really need, you mentioned it, Eye of the Needle. Eye of the Needle is a low action story, but one where the stakes are high and the character work is great. So you don't have to have a lot happen. You don't have to have a really difficult sci-fi pretense to wrap your head around, because it's really more about just what are the characters going through and what is their situation and their hopes and aspirations. That's all it's about, you know.
I was recently watching a video about Steve Jobs, and Steve Jobs had to basically reverse engineer this question in a way that made sense to the general public when he was talking to what was one of his, first meetings upon his return to Apple.
Yeah.
And they all asked him a lot of technical questions. And he basically said, what's more important, the customer experience or the technology?
Yeah, right.
He said, you can always explain away the technology because that will always, in many cases, fly over the consumer's head, because that's not what they want. They want what's going to make their lives better, more efficient, more robust, more enjoyable. Yeah. How do we enhance the customer experience without getting into the weeds of explaining the technology? And I think that that's kind of like where Voyager is at with its technobabbleisms, because those are very distracting.
Yeah.
And they distract you from what is the core competency of the human experience that is being explained in the episode. What is the customer service that is being afforded the experience? So that's where you get at with these time travel episodes. You can write pages and pages of very scientific and very factual jargon, quote unquote.
Yeah.
But is there any heart in that?
Yeah, right. And if you don't have that, then, well, you have a problem. I mean, Star Trek at the end of the day is about people. And more importantly, it is about us. It is about us in the future being our best selves, represented in a multitude of ways, through scientific stories, through seeing our reflection in the alien cultures that we meet, et cetera. But at the end of the day, it's about us. And if we can't relate to the human element that's going on, then we really have a problem with the storytelling. So, Alex, thank you so much. I know that there is more to come, but today we will wrap it up, and thank all of you for watching us on Engage here on YouTube at the Roddenberry Entertainment channel. Subscribe and like and share that playlist, please. And if you would like to engage with us, send us your comments at missionlog@roddenberry.com. That email goes to all of us, including the boss. You can find us on Facebook at Twitter, Facebook and Twitter at MissionLogPod. And remember, we may engage with your comments on the air.